Well, Evan, Harley, congratulations on this great new film. I've had a chance to sit down and watch it, and I've got to say it is an absolutely fantastic film, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little bit about where the idea for the film first came about from.
Yeah, so Harley and I met when we were both quite young. We were both working at a bookstore, and I'd had this idea for a film for a while. I had a night similar to the ones the teens have in this film when I was about 19. And Harley and I just decided to write it, and it took about 6 to 8 years, I think. I'm not exactly sure the proper timeline, but we were writing for a long time, and then we just decided it was time to shoot. But yeah, it was something I'd had in mind for a while, but I think we both brought a lot of ideas to it, and it definitely changed or evolved significantly over the years we were writing it.
Yep. Harley, what were those writing times like? Like, did you guys get together once a week and sit down and write, or did you both write on your own and then kind of collaborate it together?
Yeah, actually, almost all of it. We were in the same room when we were writing, and we really were sort of huddled around a computer and would discuss a lot of the ideas that we had. Sometimes we even had a moment where we were, trying to think of the exact perfect next line for the character would, to say, and we would sort of pause or discuss lots of different options, and it would, take a real while before we got the exact line that we felt happy with and that would allow us to move on. So, some of that process was even quite slow, but I think we were really on the same page. We could kind of tell when something felt really right to us, and so for that reason, we were just not willing to move on until we had it exactly as we wanted it.
You mentioned in the press release that about it being a coming-of-age film, and you want it to be an Australian coming-of-age film, because with film in Australia and coming-of-age, we tend to do genre films, whereas we have great television shows like Pugwall Summer and stuff like that kind of does go into the coming-of-age. But what kind of coming-of-age films did you guys grow up watching?
I'm not sure I was super into coming-of-age films when I was a teenager, to be honest. I think I got into them when I was a bit older. So I was in my early 20s, and I think it was probably when I first saw Dazed and Confused, the Richard Linklater film.
Yeah.
Since then, I've got into a lot of others, particularly from the 70s, things like Deep End, the Skolimowski film, or The Last Picture Show by Peter Bogdanovich. But yeah, it's a genre I've always really enjoyed. I think it's just a fascinating time in one's life, and there's a lot to explore there. I think for most people, it's a time which will be pretty influential on the kind of adult you become. Not for everyone, but I don't think there's any denying that it's an impactful period.
Yeah.
I look back on my youth pretty fondly. So watching teenage films or watching coming of age films can be quite nostalgic, and I really enjoy kind of being transported back to that time I really enjoyed.
How about for you, Harley? What coming-of-age films did you grow up watching?
Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for a lot of these perhaps real Hollywood American films, like even things like Easy A, or some of these more contemporary ones like The Spectacular Now, or this one I saw more recently called Edge of 17.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of them have a lot of the same tropes, and they're very engaging, because you almost kind of know, you get the cliche, like the ball at the end and the big dance or something, or the real classic moments of someone walking through the corridor at school and getting bumped or something like this. And I find a real comfort in the very almost kind of predictable relationships and dynamics, which are just explored in a really fun way. And maybe you have a soundtrack real exciting tunes that are contemporary to the time. But even though I have a real like guilty pleasure with a lot of those, I also was pretty excited that we were obviously going about things quite differently and not making a film that played on all those tropes, and instead making a film that was almost in kind of real time, just following one evening, rather than whizzing through the whole school year with all of the kind of markers that you would expect, I guess.
I was going to mention that a lot of those tropes aren't there, and the film, as a result, has a very natural feel to it. How important was capturing that natural feel to both of you?
I think incredibly important. Suppose, some of the other films we're inspired by, as Ev said before, were things like Richard Linklater films, which felt like they captured a real slice of life. And I think authenticity was a word that came up a lot as we were creating this film and of what we were trying to achieve, as well as nostalgia. So suppose we were really interested in making it feel real so that people felt like they were there and they were part of this evening, and for people who could relate to that kind of low-key social night with friends. We wanted to really hopefully make them feel like they were back there, and we seemed to get that feedback after we had the screening in Melbourne. A lot of people reflected that they had remembered a similar night that they'd experienced themselves and could really put themselves in the shoes of the characters. And I think as well, because a lot of that audience had grown up in Australia, and the film, I suppose, feels quite Australian. It made it even easier for them to do that. That there weren't the American accents or anything like that.
Yeah. Evan, you said before, I love the way you said that you'd been writing it for so long that you just decided it was time to film it. How did you take that next step and start filming it?
I think it just got to the point where we knew we weren't going to get government body funding or anything like that. We'd always written it with the idea that it was going to be a low-budget film no matter how it got made. So we had that in mind. So we never wrote in any explosions or long action sequences or anything like that.
That one explosion we did write in.
Well, that's true. There actually is a small explosion, sorry. But yeah, so, I mean, we always had the idea that maybe we just shoot it ourselves. And I think I was pretty inspired by, I mean, I hate the term, but the mumblecore films of the early 2000s. The films of, I don't know, Kelly Reichardt and Joe Swanberg.
Yeah.
And this kind of DIY nature. So I think, I don't know exactly what it was that prompted us to take that leap, but we just decided it was time, and we got to casting and getting Nicola on board. And as we got going, I think we stepped a little bit away from this mumblecore idea, and we tried to make it as beautiful as we could. To look at least, yeah.
Harley, how did you go about the casting? Because one of the things I loved about this was the great young cast that you put together. How did you go about casting the film?
Yeah, we essentially just put out an ad to a lot of drama schools and a few sort of channels, like networks of our own as well. And yeah, we ended up having about 100 people apply, so it seems quite popular. So we saw a lot of people reading the same scenes, and that was really fantastic. The people who auditioned seemed to be really enthusiastic. I think especially as a lot of them were starting out, they were feeling really passionate about drama and about their own acting craft, and a lot of them potentially hadn't done a feature film before, so it gave them this opportunity to dive into a character, obviously get a whole lot of experience playing them, not just in one sort of short film or something, but really spending a whole month acting that character. That was great, and the actors that we ended up giving callbacks to and then casting, we were really happy with them. We thought they made a fantastic ensemble, and they were incredibly dedicated. So the casting was a success, a big success in our minds.
Yeah. Evan, you wrote this film about a night in your life. How did that affect the casting when you were actually casting people who were going to be playing people that you kind of knew?
Look, when I say it's about a night in my life, that's very loose. I had a night, and when I was 19, and ever since then, I thought maybe that would make a good idea for a film. But over the many years of writing with Harley, the characters evolved pretty significantly. There were ideas that we knew we wanted to capture on screen, but I think really there's a bit of both of us probably in all of the characters, to be honest. I think when I was casting, I had a pretty open mind on at least the look of what each character would be.
Yeah, okay. So how do you guys feel now, the deal with Bounty Films? How did that come about, and how do you feel now that the film is about to get a wide audience out there in streaming land?
So so I met Leslie through an acquaintance I know. They sent Leslie the film, and Leslie liked it, so got us on board, and so that's great. But look, it's just great to finally get the film out there. We shot it a couple of years ago. We did a couple of festivals here and there. But yeah, it's nice to finally kind of have it out there for anybody to watch, and we can step away from it a bit, and it's the end of a chapter, which is really nice.
Yeah. So I guess to finish off from both of you, tell us a little bit about what you would like to say to everybody out there before they go out and check out this film over the next couple of weeks.
I think just to be ready to enjoy a Friday night as a 17-year-old. Maybe it's nice to invite our audience to take themselves back to their own final year of school, and be ready for that sort of trip down memory lane. And we hope you really enjoy it. And it's been great. Already we've seen a tiny bit of feedback online, and that's been really exciting. So definitely, if you're inspired to leave a review or comment, we'd love to do that as well.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, congratulations on such a fantastic film, and we hope our listeners all go out and check it out over the next couple of weeks.
Great. Thanks so much, David.